It started with a whisper in the locker room. Could Caitlin Clark really be offered partnership of her own WNBA franchise? By the time the news broke, fans are shocked, jaws dropped, and emotions ran high. Imagine hearing your superstar rookie not only dominating the court but also sitting at the big table with team executives, pulling levers that shaped the future of the Indiana Fever. Rumors flared that veteran players felt blindsided, that alliances fractured overnight, and that even the front office was scrambling to contain the fallout. "This isn't just a contract," one player murmured, voice trembling. "It's a power shift." Behind closed doors, whispers of betrayal echoed. Some whispered that loyal teammates would demand equal stakes, while others feared this historic move would spark jealous rivalries that could tear the squad apart. Meanwhile, fans outside the arena held their breaths, wondering if this unprecedented coup would elevate Clark to legend or ignite a locker room war. The family was left divided. Social feeds exploded with hot takes. And one thing was certain: the WNBA's bold gambit has set the stage for a drama no one saw coming. The afternoon sun dipped low over Gainbridge Fieldhouse as Caitlin Clark strode onto the polished hardwood, her heart pounding like a war drum. Whispers trailed in her wake. Did you hear? She actually did it. She paused at the free throw line, silver sweatband pressed tight against her forehead, and scanned the silent stands. This wasn't just another practice. It was the first time she'd stepped foot on Indiana Fever territory as not only their rookie, phenom, but as part owner. Inside the locker room, the tension was electric. Headlights bounced off lockers, illuminating faces twisted with shock. Veteran guard Jordan Wilson, known for her steely composure, clenched her jaw as she adjusted her jersey. "So let me get this straight," she muttered under her breath to forward Taylor Reed. "We're sharing equity with someone who hasn't even played a pro game yet." Reed swallowed hard, eyes darting. "That's what the papers are saying," she whispered back, voice trembling. Moments later, head coach Maria Sanchez called everyone to huddle. Her usual calm demeanor felt brittle, like porcelain ready to shatter. "Team," she began, voice low but firm, "we've got a lot to unpack." As she spoke, Clark stood apart, shoulders squared, trying to shrink into anonymity despite the weight of every eyeball in the room. "We need unity more than ever," Sanchez continued. "This league spotlight just got brighter. It's our job to harness it, not fight it." The room cracked with a symphony of sighs. Assistant coach Derek Miles exchanged nervous glances with Sanchez, clearly concerned about the ever-widening rift. Clark approached, voice steady but soft. "I know this feels sudden. I'm still the same Caitlin you all know. On court, off court, nothing's changing except maybe I get a bigger seat at the table." Wilson shot back, tone icy. "Your seat? We've been here fighting for years. You skate in, break records, and now you own us." An awkward hush fell. Sanchez stepped between them, hand raised as if to calm a wild animal. "Look, no one's taking anything away from your legacy, Jordan. This is about growth, ours, the franchises, the leagues." Wilson's eyes glinted with unshed frustration. After a moment, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the lockers rattled. Heads turned. Some averted their gazes, unwilling to meet Clark's. Outside, the front office was ablaze with crisis. GM Lance Peterson paced his corner office, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, I understand the optics," he snapped. Across the line, a senior owner's voice crackled. "Lance, we can't have our vets revolting." "Are you sure she signed the papers?" As he confirmed, his face paled. On his desk lay the glossy contract clauses buried deep, promising Clark a 5% stake in team decisions. Down the hall, Public Relations Director Marina Cho scrambled to rewrite talking points. Tweets were already trending. Caitlin Clark burnout. Shame on Wemba. Locker room rebellion. She typed furiously, then erased. Nothing sounded sincere. With a deep breath, she drafted the release. This unprecedented step honors Caitlyn's contributions and signals our commitment to empowering our players. But even as she clicked send, she felt the words wobble. Back in the locker room, whispers had morphed into full-throated debate. Veteran superstar Amanda Dutch. Houston confronted Clark by the water cooler. "You think money fixes everything?" she demanded. Clark met her gaze, honest regret softening her eyes. "I never wanted to undermine anyone. I'm passionate about our success." It felt like a way to show it. Houston's fist thumped the bench, rattling gear. Passion doesn't buy loyalty. Rookie, the two circled each other like predators and teammates retreated, forming a half-moon of silent witnesses. Then, unexpectedly, Houston's shoulders sagged. "I see how the league adores you," she said, voice cracking. "They're selling hope, but I'm afraid they're selling us out." Clark's throat tightened. She reached out, sliding an arm around Houston's shaking form. "We're on the same side," she whispered. A hush fell over even the most talkative veterans. Amidst that fragile moment came a knock on the door. GM Peterson's voice calling urgently. Sanchez emerged, brows knitted, signaling everyone to silence. She led Clark, Houston, and a handful of chosen vets into the conference room. Once inside, Peterson laid out the future. Clark would attend board meetings, weigh in on marketing, and even share in merchandising profits. In return, the league would highlight veteran contributions through special features. "You'll get your due," he assured Houston and the others. On the drive home, Clark replayed the scene. She'd walked into this with confidence, expecting open arms, but the reality was more complex. She unclamped her fingers from the steering wheel, heart still thrumming. Could she balance being a teammate and an owner? She thought of Houston's trembling frame, Reed's tear-bright eyes, Wilson's frown etched deep. The burden of representation pressed on her like never before. Meanwhile, across social media platforms, the hashtag stand with vets surged. Former league stars tweeted solidarity, sharing their own stories of fighting for equity on courts and in boardrooms. Fans chimed in, some praising the league's innovation, others rallying behind Clark's teammates. The digital uproar painted a mosaic of divided loyalties. Flickering lines of support running like fault lines through the WNBA community. That night, at a celebrity charity gala in downtown Indianapolis, Clark faced her next crucible. Photographers flashed as she stepped onto the red carpet, sterling clutch in hand. Whispers spread ownership deal and reporters jostled, clamoring for sound bites. "How will you balance ownership and performance?" one asked. Clark exhaled, smoothing her lace dress. "I'm here to win games," she began, voice steady despite the pounding in her ears. "Everything else is secondary to my love for the sport." As the flashbulbs stuttered, Clark spotted Houston across the crowd, surrounded by curious onlookers. She crossed over, slipping her hand into Houston's. "Thank you for standing with me today," Clark said quietly. Houston's reply was curt but warm. "Just promise you won't forget the rest of us when you're signing checks." Clark smiled, though her eyes glistened. "I'll make sure your legacy shines too." Later, backstage, Clark overheard sponsors arguing over contract clauses. "We'll need her image rights, board participation, and jersey sales linked." One executive insisted. Another countered. "This rookie hasn't even proven she can stay healthy." Clark's jaw clenched. She slipped away, pacing the dark hallway, anger and doubt swirling. Was she ready for this battlefield? Or had she just signed herself and her team up for a war she couldn't win? Returning to her apartment, Clark found a single envelope on her doorstep. Inside lay a handwritten note. "We're watching. Don't break us." No name, no return address. She sank onto her couch, mind racing. Family members called to check. In her older sister Morgan, voice shaky as she admitted she feared the headlines were tearing the team apart. Her mother texted a simple prayer emoji, while her father warned against mixing business and sport. Caitlyn read the note again, heart hammering. She thought of the promise she'd made to lift everyone up and the avalanche she'd set in motion. If this was ownership, it came with more strings than she'd ever imagined. Outside, the city lights danced, oblivious to the storm threatening to engulf the fever. Inside, Clark steeled herself. She would fight for respect, for unity, for the dream that had brought her here. But first, she would have to prove that ownership wasn't just a title, but a responsibility she intended to shoulder, no matter the cost. The morning following the gala, the Fever's practice facility felt tense with unspoken fears. Caitlin Clark arrived early, ball under arm, determined to treat this day like any other. Yet the corridors hummed with hushed conversations. She passed veteran center Alyssa McDaniels, whose eyes flickered with curiosity and caution. "Okay," Caitlin ventured, voice low. McDaniels paused, gaze fixed on the polished floor. "We'll see," she whispered before slipping into the weight room. Inside the gym, Coach Sanchez rallied the team for drills, but her words seemed to float above everyone's heads. Layup lines moved mechanically, passes lacked their usual sharpness, and the thud of sneakers echoed louder than the coach's whistle. Caitlin attempted to spark energy, calling out encouragement, but the smiles she received felt forced. She dribbled toward the three-point arc and struck a shot that swished through the net. Silence, no high fives, just the hollow sound of nylon. During a water break, reserve guard Laura Chen sidled up. "I don't get it," she sighed, tipping condensation from her bottle. "We all fought for this team, and now it feels like we're pawns in a boardroom game." Caitlin lowered her gaze. "I never meant for it to feel like that," she said softly. "I thought ownership would mean more say for everyone." Chen shook her head, frustration edging her tone. "Say in decisions. Or say in profit. See headlines about your stake and wonder if loyalty's for sale?" Mid-practice, GM Lance Peterson strode in, phone pressed to his ear. He jabbed a finger at the court. "Game's set tonight at the Fieldhouse. We need a united front." Lowered his voice and barked. "No leaks, no drama." As he stalked away, the team exchanged worried glances. The threat of leak investigation loomed large, suggesting that those who spoke out risked repercussions. Later, in the film room, Sanchez attempted to refocus attention on scouting reports. Slides of opposing defenses flickered on the screen, but no one took notes. Taylor Reed, clutching her notebook, glanced at Caitlin, mouth twisted. After the meeting, Reed pulled Caitlin aside. "We're playing the Mystics tonight," she reminded, voice steady. "If your off-court saga messes with our heads, we'll lose that game." Caitlin nodded, brow furrowed. "I'll keep it quiet," she promised. Yet she wondered whether she could truly separate boardroom battles from court battles. In the afternoon, the players gathered for a surprise team lunch at a nearby diner. Caitlin hoped this would thaw the chill. She slipped into the booth beside Houston, who gave her a curt nod. Conversation trailed around her jokes about last night's awards show, tales of summer vacations, even excitement over a teammate's newborn baby. Caitlin bit into her turkey club, tasting more anxiety than appetite. Houston talked about adopting a pet snake. Caitlin realized how distant these moments felt. Back at the arena, cameras rolled for a weekly behind-the-scenes feature. Public Relations Director Marina Cho had prepped Caitlin for sound bites. "I'm honored and humbled." She'd practiced, but when the red light blinked on, Caitlin's throat closed. "This opportunity isn't just for me," she blurted. "On camera, it's for all of us to grow together." The production assistant signaled cut, and Caitlin exhaled with relief, only to hear Houston's voice behind her. "You sure that's what people heard?" Night descended, and the crowd filled Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But energy crackled less like electricity and more like static. Chants of "Let's Go Fever" sounded tentative. Cameras frequently panned to Caitlin, whose every smile drew cheers. Mixed with murmurs, several veterans sat with arms folded, faces unreadable. On the bench, Clark's usual spot felt like quicksand. The first quarter opened with a flurry of turnovers. Clark's usually effortless step-back jumper clanged off the rim twice. Across the court, the Mystics' point guard exploited seams. In the Fever's defense, scoring easy layups. Fans shifted in seats, some waving signs reading, "We believe," others holding placards that read, "Equal pay, equal say." Halftime arrived like a reprieve dot in the locker room. Tension erupted. Houston stood at the center, voice raised above the hum. "We're losing because half of us can't focus," she exclaimed. Reed slammed her fist on the bench. "Focus. We can't focus when everyone's asking who owns what. It's the veterans." Turned to Caitlin, who sat pale and silent. Coach Sanchez pounded the counter. "Enough," she roared, startling everyone. "You all love this game more than any contract clause. So shut out the noise and play for each other." Caitlin drew a ragged breath, muscles tensed. She stepped forward, voice echoing, "I know this feels like an upheaval. But what if we saw it as an advantage?" She paced before the team, eyes bright. "We have the chance to rewrite the narrative. We can show the world that a player owner can still be a team player, that we can elevate women's sports without tearing each other down." Houston's scowl softened into grudging respect. Reed wiped sweat from her brow, nodding. The second half felt different. Clark took charge, orchestrating plays with newfound fire. She set screens, dished no-look passes, and sank a crucial three-pointer. The veterans fed off her energy, and soon the bench erupted in cheers. With 5 seconds left and the Fever down by 1, Clark received an inbound pass, dribbled past her defender, and sank a buzzer beater. Pandemonium. The crowd erupted into a roar that rattled the rafters. As teammates hoisted Clark on their shoulders, the earlier tension seemed to dissolve, at least for the moment. Cameras caught Houston in red, sharing triumphant high fives, smiles breaking like sunshine through clouds. Even McDaniel shed a reluctant grin. Coach Sanchez smiled wryly, wiping tears from her eyes. Later, in the post-game press conference, reporters grilled Caitlin about the ownership saga. Flashbulbs popped, and voices clamored. "How did you keep composure? What's next for your steak?" Caitlin settled the microphone, heart steady. "I woke up today thinking I'd prove I belong on that court," she said in measured tones. "What happened tonight reminded me that heart matters more than headlines. Ownership is a privilege, but this team, this family defines me." Across social media, clips of the buzzer beater went viral. The hashtag #ClutchClark trended, and commentators praised her leadership under pressure. Fans flooded the team's official accounts with messages of support. "We see you. You earned it, future Hall of Famer." Even Jenny from Cheatown tweeted, "Ownership drama. Cares. Caitlin slayed." Replies to that tweet linked to articles about unity, calling the victory a turning point for both the Fever and the league. Back in the locker room, celebration was tempered with reflection. Houston approached Clark, extending a hand and then pulling her into a tight hug. "You did what you said you would," she whispered. Reed grinned, tossing her towel onto Clark's shoulder. "Now, let's show them what unity looks like on and off the court." Caitlin's eyes glistened as she nodded, feeling the weight of ownership shift not toward boardrooms, but onto her teammates' shoulders, ready to carry together. That night, alone in her apartment, Clark sat at her kitchen, table, contract in hand. She reread the clauses, board meetings, profit shares, image rights. But now they felt less like symbols of division and more like tools for collective empowerment. She tapped her pen thoughtfully, envisioning how to use her voice, not just for personal gain, but to uplift every sister wearing a Fever uniform. As the city lights shimmered outside her window, Caitlin Clark realized that ownership was more than a headline. It was a responsibility to bind a fractured locker room too, bridge the gap between star and teammate, and to usher in a new era where every player's voice mattered. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Let's get to work." The days that followed the buzzer beater felt like a dream for the Indiana Fever. Practice buzzed with newfound energy, and for a moment, the ownership controversy receded behind triumphant chatter. Caitlin Clark arrived at the facility to find her locker decked with flowers, fan art, and handwritten notes. "Thank you for believing in us. You're one of us." Tears pricked her eyes as she traced a heart drawn in purple. Marker. Yet beneath the surface, old tensions still lurked. During warm-ups, Jordan Wilson jogged onto the court, her face unreadable. Clark watched her approach, unsure whether to brace for criticism or relief. Wilson stopped a few feet away, tossing Clark a rebound. "Nice shot the other night," she said quietly. Clark caught the ball mid-dribble, heart thudding. "Thanks," she replied, pausing to meet Wilson's eyes. For a moment, the locker room war seemed forgotten as they exchanged a nod. But as soon as Coach Sanchez called the team together, reminders of the stakes returned. "We have a big media day," she announced, eyes heavy with concern. "We need unity." Clark glanced at the veteran players circling behind her, wondering if they truly felt that unity or were merely playing along for the cameras. Inside, the bright lights of the court-turned studio, cameras rolled as the Fever recorded promotional spots. Clark stood alongside Wilson, Houston, and Red, each player clutching a microphone. The segment began with cheers and posed smiles, but as the interviewer pressed into the ownership deal, the polished veneer cracked double quotes. "Caitlin, now that you're part owner, how do you plan to balance business decisions with team chemistry?" The question hung in the air. Clark inhaled, heart hammering against her ribs. "I believe leadership means listening to every voice," she answered, voice firm yet warm. "I'll use this role to amplify the team's needs," she gestured, toward her teammates, not overshadow them. Wilson offered a curt nod. Reed's half-smile didn't reach her eyes. Houston's arms remained crossed. Later, on a private conference call with sponsors, Clark sat stiffly beside GM Lance Peterson. Executives from sports brands and local businesses tuned in, their faces framed by rectangles on the screen. "We're thrilled about the co-ownership narrative," one sponsor began. "Caitlin's image is powerful. We'd like exclusive rights to her social media for campaign content." Clark forced a polite smile. "I'm honored," she said, though her voice felt distant. The weight of expectation pressed upon her. Represent the league, protect her brand, keep her teammates focused. Back at the facility, the team gathered for film study. The footage highlighted their recent victory, each player's contribution spotlighted in glowing commentary. Clark watched Wilson's defensive stop freeze frame on the screen, then Houston's clutch rebound. When the coach's cursor landed on Clark's buzzer beater, cheers erupted, hesitant at first, then more sincere. But as the applause died down, Reed whispered to Clark, "You deserve that moment. Own it." Clark smiled gratefully. But the look in Reed's eyes reminded her of the fragile truce they maintained. The next morning, a rumor rippled through social media. An anonymous insider claimed the ownership deal had been designed to distract from the Fever's poor ticket sales earlier in the season. Fans and pundits speculated wildly. Is Caitlin a pawn? Did the One-Bot orchestrate a PR stunt? Articles and threads proliferated, each more incendiary than the last. Clark scrolled through her feed, stomach twisting until she closed her phone with a snap. That afternoon, during a light shooting drill, Caitlin overheard McDaniels talking to Reed. "I don't trust it," Alyssa said, voice low. "What's next?" "Starters losing minutes for rookies with fancy contracts," Reed sighed, tossing her towel. "I'm trying to believe in it, but the more I hear, the more it smells like manipulation." Clark bit her lip, fighting the urge to storm over and defend herself. Instead, she focused on her shot, repeating a silent mantra. "I'm here for the game. I'm here for the team." The day of the game against the Storm dawned humid and tense. The locker room crackled as players taped wrists, adjusted knee pads, and exchanged quiet words. Clark sat alone, lacing her sneakers, mind replaying every slight she'd felt since signing the ownership papers. She rose when Coach Sanchez entered. "We will win tonight," Sanchez declared, voice unwavering. "Not because of headlines, not because of ownership, because we play together." On the court, the Storm jumped out to an early lead. Their point guard sliced through the Fever's defense, sinking mid-range jumpers. The Fever wobbled, confidence wavering under the weight of external noise. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Caitlin Clark's ownership saga continues to cloud the Fever's performance tonight. Clark frowned as her name trailed into the broadcast. By halftime, the Fever trailed by 12. Once again, the locker room storm brewed. Houston slammed her water bottle, splashing droplets. Across the tiled floor, "What if the board meetings cost us our focus?" she snapped. Reed stood, tone edgy. "Maybe some of us need to remember why we play because we love the game, not the footnotes in our bios." Clark stepped forward, chest heaving. "No, this is hard," she began, eyes sweeping the room. "But we can't let headlines define our heart. Let's lock in, for each other, for the fans who believe in us." For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then Wilson crossed her arms, voice soft. "We'll give you 1 quarter," she said. "If we can't play like we're a team, we'll revisit this conversation after." Clark nodded, relief and resolve flooding her veins. The third quarter opened with renewed intensity. Reed intercepted a pass and streaked for a fast break, dumping an alley-oop to McDaniels for a thunderous dunk. The bench erupted. Clark fed Houston on a backdoor cut, and when Houston sank the layup, the Fever had cut the deficit to 6. "Cheers!" rippled through the stands, building momentum like a rising tide dot. But then the Storm unleashed a 12-0 run. The Fever seemed to collapse under pressure, misses mounting. On the sideline, Peterson's phone buzzed incessantly, with urgent texts from ownership. He pressed his lips together, fingers trembling as he forwarded messages to the front office. In the final quarter, Clark stepped back onto the court with purpose. She grabbed a rebound, pivoted, and found Reed lurking at the three-point line. Reed caught, squared up, and drained it, then pointed at Clark with a fierce grin. The crowd roared, emboldened. Clark drove the lane, drawing contact and sinking to free throws. The Fever had closed to within 2 points, with 40 seconds left. Clark dribbled at the top of the key, guarded by the Storm's rookie star. She executed a crossover, blew by her defender, and kicked out to Houston in the corner. Houston rose for the three, but the shot clanged off the rim. The rebound bounced to Clark's feet. No hesitation, she launched a three at the buzzer. Again, metal silence before an eruption. The Fever bench spilled onto the court as teammates piled atop Clark. The locker room mistrust melted into embraces. Reporters swarmed, recording the raw emotion. On the Jumbotron, #Together, We Fever flashed alongside images of teammates hugging Dot at the post-game press gathering. Clark fielded questions with quiet confidence. "Tonight showed me that ownership is about stewardship," she said. "It's about carrying responsibility for everyone, here on, court, and off." A reporter asked Wilson if unity truly prevailed. Wilson smiled, eyes glinting. Underneath it all were sisters. And sisters fight then grow stronger together. That night, Clark sat in the locker room long after everyone left. She traced the names etched on her jersey, feeling the weight of each on her shoulders. Ownership had given her a voice, but it was her teammates' trust that lent it power. She tapped a quick text to Reed, "Thank you for everything." Seconds later, Reed replied, "Always." As the lights dimmed, Clark rose, ready to lead the Fever into an era where headlines mattered less than the bonds forged in sweat and sacrifice. The morning sun slipped through the blinds as Caitlin Clark laced up her sneakers for what was billed as the most important practice yet. After 2 back-to-back buzzer beaters, the Fever had riding momentum. And the media buzzed nonstop about the rookie owner saving the season. Inside the gym, cameras dotted the corners like curious birds. and players glanced nervously at each lens. Even Jordan Wilson's usual confident stride seemed more measured, as if she walked on eggshells around the headlines. Coach Sanchez called everyone in, clasping her clipboard as though it were a lifeline. "Today, we build on yesterday's magic," she began, voice resolute. "But remember, winning is never easy. Unity is fragile." Clark scanned the faces of her teammates. Taylor Reed wiped sweat from her brow. Alyssa McDaniels bounced on her toes, and Amanda Houston folded her arms, gaze flicking between Clark and the coach. The reminder of Unity's fragility weighed on everyone. Midway through shooting drills, an unexpected interruption rattled the calm. GM Lance Peterson strode in with Marina Cho at his side, both clutching tablets loaded with breaking news alerts. Marina cleared her throat. "We've just received word that a major sports network plans an expose on the ownership deal, alleging insider trading and conflicts of interest." A collective gasp rose. Chen's water bottle slipped from her fingers and shattered with a sharp crack. Clark felt her cheeks flush as whispers spread. "Insider trading," Reed echoed, voice uncertain. "Did we hear that right?" Peterson nodded grimly. "They claim I tipped off sponsors before filing public disclosures." Reed's eyes watered. "You're kidding." Peterson shook his head. "This could derail everything we fought for." Coach Sanchez inhaled deeply. "We adapt," she said firmly. "We keep practicing on the court. Nothing changes, but practice unraveled." Hayes, the veteran reserve, protested. "Can we pump up screens when half of our organization is under investigation?" Houston clenched her jaw. "We can't let rumors steal our focus." Clark stepped forward, desperation in her tone. "These accusations are baseless. I swear on my career I had no advance word." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "It's not about truth. It's about perception. And right now, the league looks rotten." The rest of practice played out in stifled silence. Players made routine passes and shots, but the spark was gone. Peterson paced the sidelines, phone glued to his ear, while Marina typed statements that felt hollow. Clark replayed Coach's words. "Unity is fragile." I realized the locker room's trust hung by a thread thinner than ever. That evening, at a select sponsor dinner, the tension ratcheted up. Floors echoed with chatter as Clark and Peterson entered the private room. Logos of major brands glowed on screens behind the head table. Sponsors looked eager to discuss endorsements, but when Clark sat, a ripple of unease washed over the room. One executive cleared his throat, voice clipped. "We need assurances this scandal won't affect product launches. Fans don't buy controversy." Clark forced a smile, swallowing anxiety. "I understand. I'm fully cooperating with league investigations. This will blow over." Another sponsor raised a glass. "To the Fever's resilience," she toasted. Everyone sipped, eyes polite but distant. Clark felt invisible, an illusion of respect, masking real doubt. Next morning, the rumor mill churned faster. Social media posts branded Clark as Caitlin, the con artist, while others defended her innocence. Rookie mistake or rookie framed? Reporters hounded players outside practice, microphones thrust forward. How do you react to allegations against your Konar? Do you trust any part of the franchise anymore? Reed stormed away from a camera crew, tears brimming. Houston shrugged at one mic. "We're focused on basketball." Inside the locker room, Houston took center stage. "We're athletes, not tabloid fodder," she declared. "If we let this scandal distract us, we lose control." She nodded at Clark. "Prove to us you deserve that stake by playing like this isn't your circus." Clark bristled but nodded, heart pounding. The room hummed with uneasy agreement. The night's game against the Sky felt like navigating a battlefield blindfolded. Fans chanted Clark's name, then booed at mention of her ownership stake. The announcer's voice crackled. Controversy engulfs the Fever tonight as allegations swirl. Clark inhaled sharply, then stepped onto the court. The first quarter was a blur of faulty passes, missed layups, and hesitant defense. At the huddle, Coach Sanchez's voice trembled through the roar. "You can do this. Trust each other." In the second quarter, Reed intercepted a pass and sprinted down court, colliding with Clark near the rim. Both tumbled, wincing in pain as arms tangled. Crowd gasps rose as trainers rushed in. Clark's shoulder throbbed. Reed's knee looked twisted. They locked eyes, pain and frustration mirrored. Houston helped Reed up, then lifted Clark's arm, guiding her off the floor. The bench erupted into whispers. Injury crisis? She even going to play? Halftime arrived with Fever trailing by 15. In the locker room, antiseptic stung as trainers taped Reed's knee. Clark pressed ice against her shoulder, sweat mixing with tears. Houston knelt beside her. "Don't let them break you," she urged. Reed, grimacing, piped in. "We need you. Not just for shots, for spirit." Clark swallowed, pain flaring. "I'll try," she whispered, voice cracking. Third quarter dawned with Clark returning, shoulder braced, Reed hobbling. It was a testament to grit, or maybe desperation. Clark dribbled through defenders, feinting left and right, sinking a mid-range jumper that touched nothing but net. For a moment, the arena held breath, then erupted. Teammates rallied, the energy shifting like tectonic plates. Reed, limping, nailed a three. Houston blocked a shot on the other end. Peterson roared from the sidelines. Still, the sky clung to a narrow lead. Fourth quarter was do or die. Clark dribbled at the top, guarded fiercely. Social media lit up. "Look at her go, rookie heart." She passed to McDaniels, who pivoted and found Reed cutting underneath. Reed's layup brought the Fever within 1 point, then Houston drew contact and sank free throws. A minute remained. Fans chanted Caitlin. As she caught the inbounds dot with 20 seconds left, Clark drove baseline, spun free, and launched a floater. It floated on faith and ticked off the rim. The rebound went out of bounds off Sky's center. Replay showed Clark last touched it. Turnover. The Fever's last hope vanished. The final buzzer sounded. Sky wins by 1. The arena fell into stunned silence. In the locker room, grief and fury collided. Houston slammed her locker shut. Reed sat on the bench, head in hands. Wilson glared at Clark, disappointment etched in her stare. Coach Sanchez's calm shattered as she pounded the floor. "This is not how we planned it," she yelled. Clark rose, shoulders hunched. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I pushed too hard." Silence stretched until Reed stood, voice hoarse. "We lost because we let headlines define us." Houston's voice cracked. "We needed to believe you had our backs. Tonight, we doubted." Clark's throat tightened. "I did. I wanted to save us." Wilson chimed in, softer now. "Sometimes leading means knowing when to follow." Tears shone in Clark's eyes as she nodded. The fallout hit social media like a storm surge. Critics gloated, calling the ownership experiment a flop. Fans panicked. The Fever is cursed. Others rallied, "Give them time." Amidst the chaos, Clark flicked off her phone and rose. "Enough," she said, voice trembling but firm. "We'll learn from this. Won't let one night define us." She squared her shoulders and faced her teammates. "If you'll have me, I'll keep fighting on court, off court, wherever this battle leads." As she spoke, the locker room shifted. Reed wiped tears and stood taller. Wilson relaxed her stance. Houston placed a hand on Clark's shoulder. Coach Sanchez exhaled, offering a tentative smile. In that fragile moment, a spark of true unity ignited, one tempered by defeat, but stronger for it. Caitlin Clark realized that ownership was not a shield from failure, but the fire to forge resilience. And with her teammates by her side, she was ready to re-enter the fray, battle scars and all. Determined to turn controversy into triumph.